My name is Marcus Go. I live here in Juneau. My Inupiaq name is Angasuk, and my parents are Carolee Go from Fairbanks and the late Mario Go.
Will you tell us about how you got your Inupiaq name and what it means?
Yes, I'll be happy to. So my Inupiaq name is Angasuk, and according to the Inupiaq tradition, when a child is born, the parents bring the child to the oldest living relative, and they present the child to the relative, and that relative gives them a real name or an Inupiaq name, and most commonly the Inupiaq name is after the most recent ancestor that passed away of that person. And some names have meanings. They'll mean something like you could translate it to tundra or snow or caribou or good hunter or something like that. But when you receive a name, you can also learn about the person that you were named after, and learn about the good things that they did in life, and you can use that to help you. You can emulate some of those and carry on that tradition and that heritage of the good things that they did in your life. But the word Inupiaq means the real people. If you've heard the word Inuit, that's the word for Eskimo. That means, if you translate it, that means the people. But I think there's a little bit of a deeper meaning, because in the Inuit language, the word Inua means spirit. Everybody has a spirit. Everything has a spirit. And so you think about what that might mean. In Alaska, there's different Inuit groups. There's Yupik and there's Inupiaq. Do you want to learn a couple words? So right now, when it's cold outside, you could say Alapa. Can everybody say Alapa?
Alapa.
That means it's cold. You can say I'm cold or it's cold. You say Alapa. And if something's really cute, like if you have a baby brother or baby sister and you think he or she is really cute, you can say Angihanga. Can you say that? Angihanga. Good job. So if you see something that's really cute that you like, you can say Angihanga. Or if you're cold out, you can say Alapa.
Will you tell us about traditional dance?
Yeah, I'll demonstrate. In fact, I'll teach you how to do a dance. How does that sound? We'll go through the song one time, a little bit more softer and quieter, and that's to invoke the Inua, or the spirit of the song. The second time we go through, you dance really hard. And I'll explain the motions to the Igloo song. It goes up a little bit here so you don't hit me. In this song, the motions are, you start off by brushing snow off your left arm. You go through to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then on your right arm, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you stack blocks of snow to the left, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, then to the right, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hi, Nancy. Then you clear the snow off the top, go towards the left, and then you go towards the right, and then you put your snow knife away, and whatever arm is strongest, you're going to show that is what younger, younger, ya, younger, younger, ya, younger, younger, ya, younger, younger, ya, yo ho ho, yo ho ho, yo ho ho, yo ho ho, younger, younger, ya, younger, younger, ya, hey, younger, younger, ya, younger, younger, ya, younger, younger, ya, younger, younger, ya, ho ho ho. Good job, everybody. Well, thank you very much.
And one more time, how do you say thank you in Inupiaq?
Koyana.
Koyana.
Blanket greeting.
The one that was asked is Yek'e Hati Gudi, which means it is good that you have come. And it's in reference to one person. More than one person is Yek'e Hati Adi. The bottom line of our people was always respect. Wujao with the net. Respect everyone. Respect everything around you. Respect. That's what was always taught and was very important to our people. And it still is. And I feel that we're missing that in a lot of our younger kids. Growing up with my mother, she always told us, be respectful, listen to your teachers, and have a good day. And so in turn, when I'm teaching, that's what I tell the kids today. Be respectful and listen to your teachers. Have a good day. Our people has told stories as a way to teach life lessons to the kids, especially the raven stories. We call them Yeshklagu. It means raven series, or there was a series of stories. So yewe idul tiwan chauk yecha kusakin kiye you khatangi khwaach you klag ya yashkashni katuna idul tiwan. Since the time I was little, I heard the language being spoken. And so this is the way we were taught as kids to different stories, to life lessons. So this is the way I was taught these stories, some of them, especially from my grandparents. Grandparents have a very special way of communicating to grandkids so that they listen. And so this is why our grandparents were very important to us. Everybody, there's the saying, it takes a community to raise a child. And it was very much so in the Tlingit culture because everybody had their role in teaching the kids on what needed to be taught. They'd said that Chauk Hislaye Uti and Chauk Udach Tlingit. They said nobody lived there a long time ago, talking about Glacier Bay. It's called Khat Tup. Means among the icebergs. And so he said nobody lived there. But when the Gastineau Awaqates, he said when she called the glacier, she's the one who did taboo, is what they called it in English. She called the glacier like a dog, Awaqates. And so she was calling the dog like a glacier with a piece of dry fish. She was saying, "Kates, kates, 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 kates." And when she did that, the glacier eventually started to come. And when it came, it chased us all out of Glacier Bay. My clan's name is Kagwantan, which comes from the place in Groundhog Bay. It was where people settled after we got chased out of Glacier Bay. And so we lived in our first house was built on a place called Tleosha Shaki'an, which means the Sandy Hill Mountain, because where the glacial sediment came out in Glacier Bay, it formed a mountain on top of where it came out of the glacier. And according to some historians and some of our people, they said that we didn't have the tools to make our house posts uniform. So they burnt the posts, and when they burnt it, they gave us the name Kawagani Hit, which means the house that burnt, or so in short, our people were originally called Kawagani Hitan, which means people from the house that burnt. And then it was shortened to Kagwantan, so that's where my clan name comes from.
Thinking of whether we could have life without stories is sort of like, can we live a life without air or love? It's impossible. Stories are the way that human beings declare themselves to one another.
I found out through my research at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology that stories are so important to a community because it can help solve problems. It can help take your ego away. You know what an ego is? An ego is something that just thinks about yourself. And it becomes a selfish eating machine that you want everything just for yourself. So it takes that away to make you think about how people feel, hear, see, and do things.
A lot of native groups have this saying, "Chashlakaret ayakpwahegu pudzati." There's a spirit in everything. And it's like if you see the world as if every single thing is living. You know, there's a spirit in everything. Having a respect for every single thing around us as if it's alive. Sometimes it feels like people don't even treat other people like they're alive. Like they deserve the respect of another being and the consciousness and understanding that that other being deserves respect.
Stories are not just something for children. Stories are not just something to entertain children with. Stories hold our identity, hold who we are. Stories, some people believe, are so living and such spirit-filled entities that they transmit themselves through humans. Human beings have been telling each other the same stories since the beginning of communication at all. When we sit around a campfire eons, thousands, maybe millions of years ago, we told each other the same stories that we tell each other now. Stories of loss, stories of sacrifice, stories of love, stories of return, stories of victory, stories of place. These are the same stories human beings have told each other over and over and over again since time immemorial. In a world that did not have human beings, there would still be stories.
I think it has a lot of it to do with nature. There's something in how we have a relationship with nature, and then it comes out in stories.
They tell us about the people. It's historical. It has the language in it that is significant. It has the values in it that is very, very, very important.
It helps us to understand where we came from, what kind of people we come from, what foods were being eaten at that time. Some of those things have changed today.
It has our way of life in it. And so I think that's really, really, really important. It has the song, the music, the art, our names, and everything else that we have. Our family is in it. And that's the major reason our family is in our stories.
Wherever you live, if you learn at least a few, some of the stories, and try to learn the language of the people or the land where you live, that's going to help you be more closely tied into where you live. That's going to teach you actually how to live on that land without wrecking it, without abusing it, without hurting it, without neglecting it. It'll teach you how to live on that land.
My grandmother told me a lot of stories, but she didn't tell them to me in the way that it is commonly thought of. She didn't sit me down and tell me a bedtime story or use stories to entertain me. She told me how things were. She described the world to me and used stories to describe the world. And the stories that she told me are integrated and incorporated into place. She taught me a love of place by telling me what stories and what people and what history is rooted in our place. So I would probably say that stories contributed most importantly to my life because they were the method by which my grandmother taught me to love my place.
I have a relationship, an intimate relationship with literature, oral literature. When I'm telling the story, like you young ladies are sitting right here, it's as if my grandfather and my grandmother are sitting here. And I feel the connection with that. And sometimes I can't help but begin, like when I leave, I may just cry because I love my grandma and my grandpa. They're the ones that told me there's not a thing you can't learn. They're the ones that told me you're the best. So I get emotional because I learned these stories from my grandparents.
The stories are so clear and so vivid. I know you had David Katzek come in. He talked about when his grandmother told stories, you could taste the seaweed. You could smell the seawater. You could smell the clan house. You could feel the warmth of the fire as they were telling the story. And so that's how good Native stories were. That's how good they were. When an elder told a story, it's like they were in that world. They were seeing so clearly the vision, the things that were happening in their mind's eye as they were thinking about the story, that everyone else would see that vision themselves. It would light up inside their minds.
Every evening after dinner, my father and my grandfather and my uncles would share stories. Sometimes they told the same story over and over and over and over. And you wonder, what's this? I've heard this about 200 times and we're going to listen to it again. Well, now that I'm older, I understand why they told us the stories over and over and over. I found out that each time the story was told, I learned something new. Because my mind was listening in a different way. And my eyes watched my father get older, my uncles get older. And my ears heard the same story. But my mind experienced different things. So at different times, I heard the story in a different way. as I grew older, the stories became more understandable to me.
How do stories affect you?
Stories give me reassurance, they give me comfort. Stories allow me to look at the world from a perspective that I didn't see before. We see ourselves in those stories. So when you hear a story and you know it's important, look for yourself in that story and you'll find yourself.
It's an ancient language, Tlingit. It's a language that has come down the corridors of time, that taught my people to respect themselves, respect others, respect the environment. It is a very powerful language. David Katzik. Students researched notable places in Juneau with cultural specialists, historians, and elders. They gained respect for each place and learned Tlingit history, names, and song. These are their stories.
We are from Anach Ya Andaganye, where the sun rays hit first. We are from Douglas Boat Harbor. It was the precious land of the Taku and Ak Tlingit people, and they used this large area for fishing for flounder and salmon and gathering resources such as blueberries, until it changed when the Caucasian people came and took over the land, and they used it to mine for gold in the Treadwell and store their boats. They also built a dock out of wood and hurt some of the fish's habitat. Today, it is full of fishing boats, boat homes, and it is used as a dock. People go out there to fish. We're from Douglas Boat Harbor, where the sun rays hit first.
In 1962, a Douglas Tlingit village known as Saik was set on fire to place a new harbor. Saik meant where the sun rays first touched. The Douglas Tlingit village was where the Taku Kwan lived during the winter. Over 20 structures on Piling were destroyed in the process.
Before the gold rush, the Ak Kwan had a village in Ak Bay. The Tlingit name is Anchkachu. They gathered a lot of food and natural resources there. During the gold rush, the miners hardly affected the Ak Bay area, so a lot of the same things were going on. Presently, Wild Celery Island is near Ak Bay and known as Spoon Island. We are from Anguchaye, beside the slaves of Town Place. We are from Fish Creek. It was a place of fishing, salmon drying, and smoke houses for subsistence by the Tlingit. They also lived there and farmed by the fertile waters. It changed when they had a small school and town. Today, Fish Creek is used much the same way as in the past, so it is used for fishing salmon and Dolly Varden and more. We are from Fish Creek, beside the slaves of Town Place. We are from Anguchaye.
The name Dzantik'i means place where the flounder gather. Dzantik'i, today more commonly known as Gold Creek, was at one time a place where the Tlingit people settled and harvested resources. At Gold Creek, gold, silver, and lead have been found over 100 years, which gives it the name Gold Creek.
Marl Roberts is a mountain in downtown Juneau, and it's home to the Mount Roberts Tramway. After the discovery of gold in Juneau, it was a place to dig gold and store in the mountain. Its Tlingit name is Rushkinachdeyi, meaning trails above each other. We are from Katlach, Shatlach, Moldy Top. We are from Mount Juneau. It was a place of berry picking for edible berries such as blueberries and huckleberries, and for hunting deer, bear, and ptarmigan. More land has been added at the base of the mountain from the inside of the mountains during the time of gold mining. Today, we see from the mountain eagles flying, the governor's mansion below, trees on the hillside, and cars along the streets. We are from Mount Juneau, Moldy Top. We're from Katlach, Shatlach.
The name Dzantik'i means place where the flounder gather. Dzantik'i today, more commonly known as Gold Creek, was at one time a place where the Tlingit people settled and harvested resources. At Gold Creek, gold, silver, and lead have been found for over 100 years, which gives it the name Gold Creek. Today, the Gold Creek area has many houses, schools, and recreational areas.
The Taku natives had a village on the banks of Lawson Creek. The Tlingit name is Tuliagua. They fished for several kinds of salmon and trout. When the people came for gold, they passed on diseases that eradicated most of the native population.
We are from Itji Sparkling Valley. We are from Perseverance Valley. It was a place with a sparkling river that people would admire. It was a place the Auk people would pick bright red salmon berries and hunt deer. It changed with the search for gold and the first road was built. Later, it went from being an active mine to abandoned, creepy tunnels. Today, it is used for hiking in the sun with family and friends. In the summer, there are tours that let visitors pan for gold and teach about the mine's history. We are from Perseverance Valley, Sparkling Valley.
Dzantik'i, meaning where the flatfish gather, is the name of the downtown area that was settled by the Tlingit people. Upon the finding of gold, many traveled to the Dzantik'i area, and the city of Juneau grew around the creek. The city went through many changes and eventually turned into present-day Juneau, Alaska.
Mount Roberts is right in downtown Juneau. Its Tlingit name is Wush Kinach Deyi, trails above each other. The Mount Roberts tram opened in 1996. It is 3,819 feet tall. The tram takes you 1,800 feet to the top.
We are from Dzantik'i, place where the flounder gather. Today its name is Gold Creek. It was a place where the Auk used it for fishing starry flounder, steelhead, and salmon, hunting deer, and a summer home with gardens. It has changed because of mining. Gold Creek has less flounder, deforestation, and new buildings. Today, more houses have been built, and more people use it for fishing for flounder and salmon. Today, its name is Gold Creek, place where the flounder gather. We are from Dzantik'i.
The Tlingit name is Yara-at-Kale, and its English name is Mountain Juneau. When the people returned to the Dzantik'i in the summer, they saw the mountain and felt like they were home. Today, many homes, roads, trails, and recreational areas are near Yara-at-Kale.
Lemon Creek is named after John Lemon, who discovered the gold in the valley. Today there is a jail, Costco, police department, homes, and a coffee shop, and more. The Tlingit name for Lemon Creek is Sitkuhin. It was an important place, and it was used for salmon fishing, bear, and goat hunting.
We are from Wush Kinach Daye, trails above each other. We are from Mount Roberts, a mountain of trails to pick salmon berries and hunt. It was a place where a train for the gold mine was built. It changed. Today, there are no longer a mine or a train. Today, it has a tram. It has a place where people go on a sunny day and a trail up it too. There is also a restaurant and a gift shop. We are from Mount Roberts, trails above each other. We are from Wush Kinach Daye.
Over 150 years ago, the Tlingit traveled by the canoe to the place that is now downtown Juneau, the shoreline. Yan Suka was much farther up onto the mountain. When the Tlingits were coming home, they saw the face of the mountain.
The Taku River southeast of Juneau is an important place for commercial and sport salmon fishing. During the gold rush, Dr. Harry C. Devine built a log cabin for a hunting and fishing outpost, which is now known as Taku River Glacier Lodge. The Tlingit name for Taku River is Taku.
Idji Shanaks, the Sparkling Valley, and the AJ Mine are all historic names of the present Perseverance Trail, a magical place that has changed over time. It used to be a pristine, untouched place. The grass only tread upon the native people, the Tlingit. Suddenly, a booming gold mine that made a town grow up from the dust, and now a fun place to hike.
In 2017, people use the Juneau docks for fishing, traveling, and recreation, but the shoreline is very different compared to 100 years ago. In the 19th century, gold was discovered in the Dzantik'i area. The shoreline, or Ye'uwa, was built up from shavings and rock from the mining. The land area built up, and today, businesses and docks surround the downtown shoreline.
Nakay Tsudat. Good morning. Skinya Tla Ayachat Dusak. Kluk Nachari Ayachat. English Yadi Ayachat. Dachlawadi Dutch Hun. Digana Hit Ayachat. Gunachu Kwan. Gunachish. I was born here in Juneau, and I like to refer to Juneau as Ahwan territory, which it really is. And yes, I'm very proud of who I am and where I'm from. My Shinget name is Skinatla. I was given that name by Cecilia Coons. I'm Raven Coho. Cecilia Coons, she was what is called the Na Tla. She's the mother of the clan. She's the one that gave me my name. Skinya Tla literally translates to woman who brings water. My name originated in the Yakutat region. For me, I didn't grow up with my cultural identity, and I've had to really work hard to learn that part about who I am. But when my grandchildren were born, I decided it was time to get on board because I really wanted to teach my children and my grandchildren so they could also continue those traditional values. It's important to me. Traditionally speaking, about the Tlingits, we're an oral people. Our oral history is how we continue who we are. We tell our stories, and that's how we carry our history. And so that part is something that we've been doing for thousands of years. And if you see clan crests, that tells the stories. That's how we told our stories. That's how we perpetuated our people and our culture.
Do you think it's important to learn languages?
Yes, I absolutely do. It'll really, really make you see the world in a way that you didn't expect. It's beautiful. I'm not real proficient with numbers, but I can do 1, 2, 3. Klech, dech, dachun.
Okay.
I'll say a very easy word. Gunakchish, which means thank you. When you hear gunakchish, ho, ho, that's thank you, exclamation point, exclamation point. Gunakchish, ho, ho. Say it with enthusiasm like you mean it. Gunakchish, ho, ho. Ah, Yahweh. Way, way, we are, hey. Way, way, we are, hey. Ah, 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 ah. We are, hey. Ah, we are, hey. Ah, way, way, we are, hey. Way, way, we are, hey. Ah, 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 ah. ha, we ah hey, ah, we ah hey. Ooh-cha.
We're from Dzantik'i, hill above Gold Creek. We are from Capitol Hill. It was a place where people fished for flounder and dog salmon, and hunted for deer and porcupine.
Gold Creek area is also the Tlingit village Dzantik'i Heeni. The Tlingit used Gold Creek for fishing for salmon and flounder. Gold was found in the town of Juneau, grew around the mines, and changed Dzantik'i Heeni.
The Mendenhall Glacier and Visitors Center are popular tourist spots in Juneau today. The Tlingit name for the area is Sit, which literally means glacier. The Tlingit people use the entire Mendenhall Valley for hunting and fishing.
We are from Wushkinach-Deyi, trails above each other. We are from Mount Roberts. For the Tlingit people, it was a mountain looking over canoes, caches, huts, fishing, and living. It was a mountain people climbed to build roads, camp, and hunt. It changed to a mountain looking over concrete roads, cruise ships, yachts, fishing houses, mansions, big buildings, and docks. Today, locals and tourists use the tram to see its beauty and hike. We are from Mount Roberts, trails above each other. We are from Wushkinach-Deyi.
Dzantik'i Heeni, the name for Juneau before Russians and prospectors came in, was inhabited by the Tlingit people. The Tlingit people lived a subsistence lifestyle. They utilized and honored the land. In 1880, Chief Cowie showed Joe Juneau and Richard Harris gold that started the gold rush in present-day Gold Creek.
Thane is a neighborhood located along Gastineau Channel, and it begins 1 mile south of downtown Juneau. Its Tlingit name is Kush, or oozing sore, referring to the frequent landslides and avalanches which occur on the steep mountains in the area.
We are from Dzantik'i Heeni, flounder at the base of the creek. We are from Gold Creek. It was a place used for hunting and fishing for dog salmon, flounder, and steelhead with canoes. The fish were smoked in smokehouses. There's more structures, more technology, and less gold around in Juneau. Today, the area is used for shopping for food, toys, and clothes, or fishing for sport. We are from Gold Creek, flounder at the base of the creek. We are from Dzantik'i Heeni.
Over many years, miles of mining tunnels, including many tunnels of quartz and gold, have been built on Mount Roberts or Wushkinach-Deyi. Dzantik'i Heeni, the Tlingit village, extended to the base of Wushkinach-Deyi and stretched all the way to the original coastline and past Gold Creek. Currently, many use Mount Roberts for recreation and hiking. There are also many homes and stores at the base. Mount Roberts tram can take you near the top.
The Taku Inlet is a popular hunting and fishing spot in Canada and Alaska. The Tlingit name is Taku, named for the Taku Kwan people. The Tlingit people use the area for hunting and fishing. We are from Dzantik'i. We are from Capitol Hill. It was a forested hill where the Okwon had their summer fishing and hunting camp. It changed by being populated by people searching for gold, who built buildings and mines. We are from Capitol Hill. We are from Dzantik'i.
Over 100 years ago, Mount Juneau was called Yada At Kali, which translates to beautiful adorned face. When the Tlingit people came home from fishing, hunting, or berry gathering, one of the first sights they saw was Yada At Kali. It was a welcomed sight. Gold was discovered and the land rapidly changed. Today, Mount Juneau is a popular site for homes near the base, hiking, recreation, and berry gathering.
The Tlingit name for Mount Roberts is Wush Kinach Dei, meaning trails above each other. From the 1880s to the 1920s, 300 ounces of gold was found on Mount Roberts. Many of the Tlingit people left their homes at the base. Today, it's best known for its tram that many tourists and locals use for sightseeing. It's 3,819 feet tall. We are from Heeni, Humpback Salmon Creek. We are from Sheep Creek. It is a place where people would go to get crab, plant crops, and catch dog salmon and humpies. There was a smokehouse there. Now there is a bridge.
Perseverance Trail was the first paved road in Alaska. After Joe Juneau and Richard Harris were led to gold by Chief Cowie. The Sparkling Valley, or Ichi-Shanach, was the original trail that was utilized by the Tlingit for fishing and gathering berries. The miners created a trail to get to mining operations more easily. Today, Ichi-Shanach is known as Perseverance Valley.
Auk Bay is north of Juneau and contains Auk Bay Harbor, Auk Lake, and Auk Bay Elementary School. Its Tlingit name is Dzantik'i, or Wild Celery Island, and it was the winter home for the Okwon people because of its milder climate and centralized location among neighboring villages. With the discovery of gold, many of the Okwon people moved into downtown Juneau and left Dzantik'i.
My name is Kason, my teacher is Miss Saban, and I'm in 5th grade. These are our strategies to become better and active readers.
Could you please describe what ask and answer means in reading?
It means to ask a question related in the story, and as I read, I answer my question.
Please tell me how you use this strategy.
I use this strategy by answering my questions, and it helps me stay engaged.
What does visualize mean?
When you visualize a story, you form pictures of the characters sitting in action in your mind.
How does visualizing help you become a better reader?
It helps me become a better reader because I actually get the pictures and I can see what's going on.
It helps you become a better reader because you can understand the text more.
Why do you predict?
Because I think it helps people understand the story just a little bit more.
Could you please tell me what this strategy means?
This strategy means to make a smart guess on what is going to happen next using context clues and illustrations. illustrations.
Why does this strategy help us become a better reader?
Because good readers are active and engaged in their reading and making predictions. It keeps us engaged.
Hi, could you please describe how you think rereading makes you a better reader?
I think that if you go back and reread, you'll catch things that you missed and will help you understand stories more and will improve your fluency.
Thank you. Why do you think rereading is important?
Because it'll improve your fluency and you can learn more in the text.
Thank you.
Could you please tell us how you think rereading helps you become a more fluent reader?
Rereading helps you become a more fluent reader by reading faster and reading more fluent and having good expression.
What is summarizing?
Summarizing is where you tell the most important events of the story and you explain it in your own words and details.
Why is it important to summarize?
So you can understand the story or the text better.
How does summarizing help you become a better reader?
It helps you understand the text a lot better. It gets you more fluent with your reading.
I would say that everybody had been traumatized. I don't think they knew very much about PTSD, you know, the post-traumatic shock syndrome that a lot of soldiers got after the war, but having been basically imprisoned in a camp and just torn from your home and your friends and your normal life before the war, I would say that most of the people, you know, they suffered tremendously psychologically. They may not have shown it so much because the Japanese have something that they call gaman, G-A-M-A-N. It means that you try to make do with the best that you can and stay strong, and all the people tried to, you know, do the best that they could and not complain and try to do what they're supposed to do. The camps were like big cities. Some of them had 10,000 people in it. So, you know, they had their own barbershops, their own theaters and schools. And the older folks, however, especially the Issei, the first generation, that generation, I think, suffered a lot. They weren't used to the food because most Japanese people ate a Japanese diet, rice and seaweed and fish and things like that. They didn't know, you know, about American food, and they were given things like Vienna sausages and, you know, heavy bread and greasy foods and stews and beans and things like that they normally, you know, weren't used to. And so then when they left camp, they had to go back with very little. I mean, all of their homes were, you know, some of them were sold and some of them were, you know, were not in good shape when they got back. And a lot of people had to find new homes, and they were only given very little money. I don't know if it was $20 or what, but, you know, their bank accounts had been frozen and they lost all their savings. And to go back to a place, sometimes some people had to move to places that they didn't live prior to the war. There were exceptions because, like in Juneau, people took care of their belongings, and when they came back, they were willing to help them get started again. But a lot of the other families were not so lucky, and people that returned to places, all they found was discrimination and people calling them, you know, Japanese, you know, like Japs, which is just a really, you know, bad thing to say. But, you know, I would say that most people probably really were traumatized, and they didn't talk about it. It was something that no one ever mention, and they tried not to expose their children to it because it was such a shameful, a hurtful thing that had happened to them.
AIM was an organization that American Indians created for their rights. AIM was founded in 1968, and its main objectives were the sovereignty of Native American lands and people, preservation of their culture and traditions, and enforcement of all treaties with the U.S. There were a lot of important events that happened between 1969 and 1975. One of the most famous events was the Trail of Broken Treaties March in Washington, D.C. in 1971. The march was the whole organization together in D.C. with signs about their civil rights. Another event was the Wounded Knee, where a deaf Indian didn't want to give up his rifle, and when it was over, more than 150 men, women, and children had been killed and 51 were wounded.
How would you feel if you were in the women's suffrage?
It would be really hard for me because I'm really active in a lot of things in the community, and it's important for me to have a voice. I can't imagine what it was like living back then to not be able to vote or to be told to be quiet. So I tell people nowadays to make sure that we all vote when we are voting age because it's so important.
Why do you think ANS and A&B is important?
I think it's important because we as people, Native people, we've got we get to take care of issues that a lot of organizations can't, I believe. We basically can have a say-so or a voice, more of a voice than a say-so, than a lot of issues that, especially Native issues.
Action. Welcome to our class. Will you please introduce yourself?
My name is Julius Kalehoku Weri Jr., better known as Kale. I am Hawaiian, Chinese, Japanese, Portuguese, and Belgium. So my Hawaiian, I have a quarter Hawaiian. That's where I was born in Hawaii. And so my culture is Hawaiian.
Did you learn your culture's language as a child? If so, can you tell us to say some words?
Well, mahalo for asking. That's kind of a hard question for me. When I was growing up, or the people I grew up with, let's put it that way, we were kind of told we couldn't speak our language. That speaking our language was not where we were going. We were to be Americanized. I was in Hawaii when Hawaii became a state. Okay? I was going to middle school at that time. What you call middle school, we call it intermediate school at that time. But as I was growing up, we didn't speak any of my language. The only time we spoke my native language was in song. And that's how I grew up. My great-grandmother visited us, and she spoke only Hawaiian. She wouldn't speak English, although she was fluent in English. But it was like she was rebelling against what was going on at the time. So we didn't speak our native language. I graduated in 1969. In 1970 was when the Hawaiian language and the Hawaiian culture began a renaissance. They began to resurge forward and think about things that happened in the past and reculturalize our native tongue. They began to teach that in schools and all that. But I had already graduated. I joined the Army. Was gone for 3 years. And when I came back, I was already so deep and entrenched in trying to make sure I had a job that I never get a chance to go back to my language, which I regret. And if you have a language that you know, from your ancestors, I would highly recommend that you find that language and try to relearn it.
Do you know how to say any words in the Hawaiian language that mean history or the past?
We have a word that's olelo, which is like a voice. Leo is voice. And the Hawaiians recited their past through song and chant, just like most native cultures did. Whether it be Alaskan Native, you know, American Native, they didn't have written language. Pictographs, you guys know what that is, right? A pictograph or petroglyph. Anybody know what a petroglyph is? There's petroglyphs across at Hoona. You guys know that? In that area, there's petroglyphs. People pound inside of the ground, in the rocks, a figure. And it is a story. It could be a story of a sailing. It could be a story of a man and a woman and a child. It could be a story of hunting. You guys seen some things on cave walls where they have a animal being, somebody throwing a spear at it. Well, they had those back in Hawaii too. But most of our past, our mo'olelo, was in song, in chant. There was a village person that could say all of the history of that village for 100 years. So history was mo'olelo. It was passed down from person to person to person. So that's the only thing I know. I know a few words in Hawaii. In Hawaiian, mahalo, which is thank you. Opala, which is rubbish. You know, my name, Kalehoku. Kalehoku is the lay of stars, or the wreath of stars. Okay? My Miss Vreeland, her son's name is Kepuukani Koholomele. He who sings the songs of the whales. And then her other son is Ma'a ina meo ke kai. Ma'a means to be able to be one with anything. People be used to you. So Ma'a ina meo ke kai is one who is used to the sea. Okay? My Dominic, you guys know my grandson Dominic, next door in fact I believe he is. His name is Lelehoku. Because on the day he was born, there was a shooting star, and I saw it. So we named him Lelehoku, the shooting star. My other granddaughter is named Hokuao, because on the morning of her birth, Venus was shining. Venus is an evening and morning star, right? And so Hokuao is the morning star. So these are words that I know. Hoku, star, that's my name, star. You know, lele, ukulele. Ukulele meaning jumping flea, right? And lele is jumping or shooting across the sky.
This was a headdress that was made for me by a young lady in the village of Dzantik'i up in the Prince William Sound. And so I was going to buy it. And this young lady, very talented, she was leader of a Aleut and Lutic dance group, and she ended up giving it to me as a thank you. So there's something that we call reciprocal giving, and so in turn I made a vest and gave it to her as a thank you.
Being part of the Haida community is a great honor. I have many aunts and uncles, Nana and Chanaz. Being raised a Haida, I spent my summers with my grandparents or my Chana and Nana, and they taught me many of the Haida traditions. They taught me how to gather food. They taught me the stories. We get together and we dance. We have traditional dancing that is done to honor specific occasions. They have memorials. They have, you do it when somebody gets a name, a Haida name, and you do it for great auspicious occasions.
We use the water to incubate the eggs and to raise the eggs, and then when the adults come back, we use water also for their home stream if they migrate back up the fish ladder to come home.
What are traditional Tlingit clan houses made from?
Most often they're made out of cedar or red cedar, yellow cedar, spruce, or cottonwood, depending on the area you came from.
Walking, you startle the mother bird and they fly away and you see where they've been, so that's where their nest is, that's where their eggs are. And my grandmother knew that, and she pointed me in the right direction, and she came back and she was like, oh, I didn't find any eggs. So that's one of my dear memories of my grandmother and egg hunting, and that morning I got to provide breakfast, which was a very proud moment for me as I'm about this high.
Another way to think about it is if you think about dinosaurs, right? They died a long time ago, but their bodies got decomposed and moved back into the cycle of life. So I might have, in the tomato I ate last night, there might have been a little piece of that in that tomato. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? But it's kind of like what we're driving at.
Please tell me why there is such thing as multiplication.
I think that the reason why we have multiplication is because it's a quick way to add. And we need to find out, like, the amounts of things. And sometimes trying to count them or trying to add them, the numbers get too big for our brains to handle. So multiplication is a nice, efficient way to think about that.
Could you please tell us your favorite animal story?
There was this man, and he was really lonely. He lost his wife. And one time he went down to the river, and he looked up and he said, oh my gosh, he saw the most beautiful woman. And he waved at her, and his heart was just, he just hadn't seen such a beautiful person for a long time. And she looked at him and grabbed her fish and she took off running. So this went on for a long time. He went down to the same spot and he saw the same woman. He didn't see her during the winter at all. He went down to look, no, but the next summer, there she was again. And he said, I've got to introduce myself. I've got to see her. This can't go on any longer. He says, hello, hello, how are you? And she looked at him And she smiled and nodded this time. At least she acknowledged him, because he was kind of feeling like, I'm not getting anywhere with this lady. And she took off running. So the next day, he went back to the same shoreline and looked up, and there she was. He said, I want to meet you. And she just looked really sad, and she shook her head. And she just walked off. So he got on his raft this time. And he went over through that river, and he got to the other side and he tied it up. So he followed the tracks, and it led up to this huge cave. And he went walking into the cave, and as he got way back, it was a deep, deep cave. This huge growl came out, and this bear came at him, this grizzly bear. And that bear looked at him and then backed off. And as the bear went around the corner, he saw the bear transform into that beautiful woman. But he felt like he fell in love with her so much that he decided to stay there. And his brothers came looking for him. They went to that same river. They saw the raft tied up over there. And they saw these bears coming. They saw 2 adult bears and 3 little baby bears coming out. And he stood up and he hollered, you know, how bears he made that big growl. And he looked over at his brothers, and his brothers knew that was him.